I've been working on trying to get like a blog post together to detail my tool and um, its motivations and stuff, and just I haven't written like I don't know I haven't written this way since like college, I feel like, and I just have been so it's been a big effort.
Writing is a skill that develops with practice, and I know I think of myself as not a bad writer, but I'm a slow writer for sure because I don't do it enough.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do think that since I spent like a week on it now, and I'm still not done with it, and I have felt myself learning, like relearning, kind of, just how to get more. I think at the beginning I was trying to like make it perfect the whole way, but definitely just like throwing ideas down and then rewriting them is just so much better, I guess. I think, at least with how
it is a good idea to basically have, here are the points I want to get across. Here are and then structure around that, right? And but you want to have the exhaustive point structure and like write the point form before you write the text. Right. Or write a point form and get ChatGPT to write the text.
Yeah. Perfect.
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, this is ChatGPT's core competency. It's darn good at it. There's more and more writing tools that take that into account. I mean, I'm not keen on it because it's pablum a bit. It's got this very bland. It's obvious. I was recently in a conference about NLP tools, and somebody gave an example, and okay, let's show what the NLP tool, like Spacey, what Spacey does with this particular thing built on Spacey. Let's see what this thing does on that sentence. And by the way, this is a perfectly unrealistic sentence. It's too good. It probably came from an AI.
But can't you, I guess, like with like things like ChatGPT, like apply specific prompts to make it feel more realistic, or like take a certain like way of
explain
writing,
to me like you're Jay-Z.
Perfect. Write this blog post like yeah, the Lion King song or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's true that that's it. So somebody writing in the education domain saying people who write these essays with ChatGPT don't realize ChatGPT is it's the point of writing is the writing is the journey, right? It's forcing you to see how clear am I in my own head. And until you go through that effort of writing, and you don't know.
Yeah, and I also think that, well, I like the idea of starting with bullets. Like moving from bullets to not bullets also has some of that, like, where you have just like thinking about, it kind of forces you to think about more how the bullets relate to each other, and like writing sentences that like flow from one bullet to the next and stuff like that.
My problem is I very much come from math, and when I think I want to go from premise to conclusion, which nobody wants to read, and I always have to write. I write that way because it comes naturally to me because of the way I think, and then I have to unwrite it or rewrite it in reverse and say, this is where I'm going, and this is how and this feels true because of that, and this feels true because of that. But if you go from premise to conclusion, People are like, well, the premises are obvious. Where are you going? They get bored and they stop and they don't reach the conclusion.
Right.
And that's okay. Anyway, there's only 3 of us. I don't think we have a clear agenda. I've been busy with other stuff, so I won't speak about theory. Maybe you want to tell us where you're at with the structure of your essay and see if there's anything I can add to it or not.
Yeah, I could. Let me think. Let me quick look at it. I've kind of been going back and forth because I have right now a lot of what I have is like about motivation, and it's kind of like somewhat of an emotional appeal, and I'm trying kind of like debating how much I actually like, if I should unemotional appeal it a little bit or not. But let's see.
You need both.
Yeah.
God, it's so difficult, and I'm struggling with that, right? Because why we built this has a lot of emotional components, has a lot of rational components, has a lot of threat components. You know, we need this because this is failing, this is failing, this is failing. And demonstrating that this is failing is boring and a whole, not demonstrating it, then are we pulling things out of our ass and yada yada? It's but the demonstration takes time, and it becomes a paper in itself. And that's something, I mean, this is what references are about, right? You should be able to just use, this is being demonstrated in that paper, go read it. But and this is what hypertext should be good at. Saying, these are our top level conclusions. If you want this justified, go to that page. If you're comfortable with it, just take it for granted. And that's the good thing about hypertext. We should be able to have a kind of hypertext format. These are, I believe this because premises. Each of those premises, if you're curious, here's the page where that gets justified. And premises and maybe reasons why you wouldn't believe this and why those reasons are wrong. And I don't believe these rebuttals because XYZ. Refused rebuttals. And that should be a structure for, and then you can just point, and this is in a way a kind of CDL style. Here's the claim. Here's the arguments. Here's why I don't believe the counter arguments. And this is in a way why our tools are what is needed to justify our tools. Right? And there it's the classic, this is not the advanced fluid concept stuff I'm speaking about, because this is a single viewpoint. You're presenting a coherent single viewpoint, and this, you don't need ultra modern techniques for that. What you or Bentley or others are doing, it's saying the Waiju, it's here's a claim, here are the arguments, and presenting it one layer at a time. It's perfectly acceptable. And you can do that in a classic wiki.
Yeah. So I guess regarding where I'm at, I have so I've been like writing this on Medium, and I think you need a Medium account to actually
share screen.
Yeah, I can just share.
I was more curious about, do you have the bullet point version? What are the main claims?
Yeah. Okay. It's very messy.
Normal.
But here we go.
I'm putting you on the spot. If you don't want to, we can close this.
No,
as I said, I don't have an agenda.
I am happy to. I do want to get feedback. I would be happy to if you guys are willing to suffer through it. Let's see. Screen or probably screen, I guess. Actually. All right. So let's see. Can you see the
Yep.
page?
Yep.
All right. So I don't know how much I should just like let you guys read it, or I guess I could probably scroll through and give like the high level. So just kind of like introduction. So first of all, so this blog post, in terms of like, I was gonna make a post on like Facebook and LinkedIn and basically link to this, and each of those will probably have something similar to this intro.
Okay.
But this just kind of says, yeah, I'm working on this full time. I want to make it easier to communicate, mutually understand problems, and this kind of details the project with motivations, goals, current plan. I just like right now pasted this in because I had an elevator pitch like written, and I feel like this is the non emotional like appeal version that is very short and to the point, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think about how to like balance between.
My criticism, by the way, when we can have all the perspectives and solve anything, unlimited power, I totally believe in the goal of having all the perspectives. I don't think that this allows us to solve anything. It's a necessary but not sufficient condition.
Right. So I guess it's supposed to help solve, but it doesn't actually solve.
Yeah.
So, right. Just gonna note that.
Necessary but not sufficient. Again, this is totally my goal as well, having all the perspectives.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the beginning of the work. Reconciling perspectives is big.
Right.
Concretely understanding, blah, blah, blah. Motivation, a lot of shit. Okay, so that's about
So this is like
problems.
the emotional peel, yeah. Just less about the tool in particular.
Let's sorry, I'll want to. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The whole section about here be problems. We all know problems is, right. And then you have to demonstrate for each of those problems that you give as examples that lack of synchronized understanding is the main obstacle to those problems, which is not a given. I mean, right. I remember having this conversation with one of the experts on IBIS, Simon Buckingham-Shum. And one thing he told us very early in the process is, by the way, not all problems are wicked problems.
Right.
Not all problems are. Now, that's it. That doesn't mean wicked problems aren't important. It doesn't mean they're not worth spending attention to. But, some problems are simple and unsolvable, right? Energy is finite. Time is finite. Resources are finite. That's not something that'll be solved. That's reality.
Right.
Some problems are not there to be solved. And then some problems are, we want to do X. We think it might be possible. It may be possible, but we don't know yet. But we agree on the goal. Well, that's not wicked. That's just complex. It's scientific. We need scientific advance. But that's not wicked.
Mm-hmm.
It's wicked when we have conflicting goals, conflicting perspectives, conflicting views of the world, but that's a subcase. Now, not all mountains are due to that. Now, one thing that's really important is when we have problems that are due to lack of coordination, not because there's misunderstanding, but because it's more tragedy of commons case. And again, that's a different problem. That's a regulation problem. Something else. I mean, lack of viewpoint alignment is the problem I care about, but it's not the only problem. physical limitation. No, due to
Yeah.
physical limitations or competition.
Competition,
What I'm saying is if
like resource limitations. I mean,
no, resource limitation is one case. There's only so much X, you know, sun, energy, oil, whatever. We have a single planet. We have one planet. It can only handle so many people. We cannot consume more than so much energy, or it's not renewable, blah, blah, blah. That's a physical limit. We can try to find new sources of energy. That's something else that changes the limits, but it doesn't change the fact that there's only one planet to go around. That's one thing. The other thing is, okay, we agree we have to run within this energy budget, and then some people try to recuperate half of it and individually, and maybe they can. That's not a viewpoint problem. This is everybody agrees to maximize their share of the pie. And some people have the ability to do so. That's another type of problem. That's a regulation problem.
right.
That's what I'm calling competition problem.
I see.
It's not impossible to have more. It's not a viewpoint alignment issue. It's, power issue.
Yeah, a lack of regulation or unagreed. It's like not everybody really agreed to that. That's just kind of like the situation, and because there's no regulations yet, but
yeah, or we could say that's an alignment problem, because is there an alignment with the idea of abiding by cooperative and commons preserving principles, right?
But then for those, it's also like does the lack of agreement, or there not even being a question of agreement yet, is that because there's a lack of knowledge or understanding about like the problem itself in the first place? This is just like lack of understanding in general is another like cause, I guess, of problems, I'm sure.
Anyway, I'm just saying that you're saying I'm going to solve X. It will make all these mountains disappear. No, it will make some of these mountains disappear. And
I actually, so further down here, so I have this like art thing that just more kind of emotional appeal, but so after this, I try to call out like the one mountain of communication that is kind of like affecting all of these mountains or impeding the other mountains, and that's the one that I want the tool to tackle. So I do call out that it's like I'm not trying to solve all of the problems. It's just like this trying to take advantage of the perspective that we have across all of us. And basically making contributing more accessible to the layperson.
That's good. No. One thing you can do, certainly. The other problem you can tackle with a thing like that, it's not just alignment, it's coordination of effort. And that's hugely valuable.
Yeah, I definitely think, coordination of effort is something
it is a key contribution. If
it's kind of like the alignment is a prerequisite, or like if multiple people are aligning on it, then it means that multiple people are like trying to work together, and then you can like once you have the like theoretical idea of what the problem is, then you can make concrete steps after that to
let me make a distinction again. Some problems require global alignment. Right? Like if we are all, for example, tragedy of commons situations, everybody has to agree to play by the commons rules.
Right.
Right? Or maybe they can be coerced into it by if the commons regulation system is powerful enough.
Or people vote for like 10 people to represent everyone and they
Yeah.
decide for that.
Yeah. But some alignments usually, coordination of effort is usually local and only requires local alignment. If, I do something and you want to do something that's either similar, so we could work together, or comes upstream or downstream in the product, in the action list, what I do could be useful to you, or what you do could be useful to me, and so on. That's coordination of effort also, and it just requires us two to be aligned. So local alignment suffices for local coordination of effort, which is already added value. Global coordination of effort would be better, but local is enough. And there's another dimension. There's a point where I should be writing my own article.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for writing this for me.
Yeah.
My own chat GPT. Wow.
It's the other aspect is the learning aspect. People try things, it gets forgotten. And what is important is to get the lessons learned from these. Okay, a startup tries something, it fails, it's forgotten, or it succeeds, it becomes IP. Where is the global social learning loop? And that is a key aspect of key failure aspect of coordination, by the way. It's people competing to own the new process or own the new idea or to be the one on the map. And that is, that's not an alignment problem. What?
You mean like several people trying to do the same thing, competing with each other and not learning from each other?
Yeah.
As like separate from, or do you mean specifically just the fact that they're competing rather than working together?
They compete because they want to be part of the solution, which is honorable in itself, except then because they're afraid of being captured, because we're not in a commons agreement, they'll keep their solution to themselves. And that means there's no global learning of like how to learn from one another's mistakes.
Right.
We don't have a global improvement. And here the obstacle is not alignment. It's
like the canonical part of it, having like one set of concepts that we can improve on and globally.
Yeah, and also having the willingness to make that in a more cooperative fashion rather than oh, if I put my idea out there, somebody will steal it.
Oh yeah, right.
And that's a big deal when you're dealing with problem solution alignment, right? I mean, right now, I've noticed even collective intelligence people are terrible at sharing. There's been some effort. CTA has been one where you really see the value of sharing, but overall, it hasn't worked that well, partly because we each have our idea of what's needed, and partly because everybody wants their idea to be part of the solution, which I understand, but God, people are bad at sticking together and creating a team. I don't know. It seems to be very difficult to say, okay, we're making that happen. And that was the ideal behind DAOs, right? that it would be more easier to casually create teams. And I have a lot of issues with DAO founding themselves on cryptocurrency, which I think was a mistake. But the idea of having a mechanism by which people could come together with an idea and make an ad hoc collaboration structure is a beneficial idea that was worth pursuing.
How do you spell that? DAO? I don't know.
DAO. Oh, what is it? Dynamic Autonomous, Distributed Autonomous Organization. Yes.
So this is just like
sorry.
decentralized. So this is like an idea of
It's an
being
idea.
able to have one.
And unfortunately, a lot of the DAO piggybacked on Ethereum and all the crypto, which I think is unfortunate. But the idea of having, and they were very concerned with voting rights and quadratic voting and this and that, and oh my God, and they lost so much energy on that because it's a problem when you have a organization, but it's a real problem. I don't think their solution was the right one, but I think the problem they identified is real. You have people who think, hey, let's do this. How do you delimit who is actively part of working on the solution so that you can reward real contributions, not have free riding, but try to solve a problem together. But in a very ad hoc, like whoever wants to contribute can pitch in and get a reward more or less proportional to the contribution without needing initial trust, so to speak.
So it's specifically to solve the like financial problem of like how can people get paid for their efforts in a way that doesn't require like a company with like a CEO to organize and
the sharp boundary who's in, who's out, because then you have to vet people and there's a whole trust issues. We don't know a priori that we trust the people, but let them pitch in, contribute, and they'll get rewarded in proportion to their contribution.
Right.
And there's a smart contract, and they do it through smart contracts, which I think that is a mistake. But forget the smart contract part. The question of how do we get people to coordinate and have a kind of ad hoc legal entity for the coordination that can oversee the rewards distribution and the alignment and the votes and the decision, but very ad hoc without the whole overhead of creating a company, creating a sharp boundary, which makes it harder to collaborate with others. Right? Without a sharp boundary around the body. Now, you know, sometimes sharp boundaries are very useful. And if you look at Ostrom's comments, sharp boundary was part of the body. And they're trying to, DAO was a way to say, maybe we don't need a sharp boundary. Did this, and maybe we can replace that with algorithms. Did it work? I don't think it did. I'm saying that was an attempt to solve it. And it's a real problem. And whenever you're speaking about aligning problems and solutions, you'll enter, this is the category of problem you're trying to solve. So you need to think about, okay, what went wrong here? And many things did. And I'm saying part of the problem is legal. It's not the part I'm most interested in. I'm much more interested in the ID alignment. But part of the problem was the structure.
Yeah.
When you have people who trust one another, it's fine. You can do it otherwise. But here they're saying, oh no, we shouldn't need trust. And they're right. I mean, commerce took off because contract law made it possible for people to have a transaction without trust. And this is a way to do organizations without trust, which is a real problem.
Yeah, it's a very interesting idea.
And that's not my field, but just making sure you're aware of it. Because it is germane to the problem definition you gave us.
Yeah, it's, I guess the way I've been seeing it is like, well, that for these like organizers or people driving it, I don't know, like there's already a lot of people that like spend their free time, like us, extra time on things that I guess I envision it being like,
If you're just looking at the
hopefully there'd be like a small group or something like that that would drive it, and then like they should be able to take advantage of the contributions of others that are doing even less, but maybe like an hour of their time or something. And that's, it's all that's all like the perspective theoretical contributions and not actually like taking actions part of it. But where the actions part of it comes in is, yeah, it's good to be aware of this, but there's always, the old, well, there's a bunch of nonprofits that exist, and if
people
they
in
exist,
nonprofits have to be paid also, right?
yeah, but they are already like, nonprofits exist and pay their people already.
And they struggle, but yeah, let's say they do. But then they pay people for projects. Like nonprofits are asked to do this ridiculous accounting that every hour has it been put towards solving this project that we got subsidies for. You don't have much like getting
like operational costs that
it's
are not
ridiculously difficult to get money for operational cost or for anything that is not earmarked for this project that we got subsidies for.
right.
They have
And
no
then,
free time.
I mean, and like time spent to get better at whatever current processes are
Horrors.
just,
No.
yeah, it sounds very tough.
Forget it.
But I mean, even
No.
in the DAO model, it seems like that would be hard, because if you're like giving rewards to people based on contributions, is there like someone that chooses what a good contribution is, or is it like, are they trying to also algorithmize? If they're trying to algorithmize the value of a solution, then like the improvements.
Some of them are doing it with smart contracts. Some of it are doing it with votes. Some people have done interesting stuff where, but that's rare, where peers evaluate the contribution, but then you get into cliques issues. Because they're thinking very contractually, there's been mostly people gaming the system. It's been a shit show.
Right.
Another avenue in that system has been more the value flows people, and I think they've been more successful in some ways, but it's a whole other ecosystem, right? But anyway, if you're just thinking about nonprofit unpaid and not about the quote unquote real economy, that's useful. And again, we're working on that in SenseCraft. I don't want to say it's not important, right?
I guess the way I see it is that it's like, that's a whole nother like beast to tackle that's like pretty independent, because it's like a general problem that's not specific to like.
Yeah, no, I understand. We all have to choose our battles. But be aware that if you say it will solve everything, it's like you have to make clear, okay, I'm putting this problem aside, I'm putting this problem aside.
Right.
And the question of idea ownership is really a stumbling block for all collective intelligence processes. alas.
Yeah, that is also uh, another problem that's much nearer to tackling than the like action step part. That it just in terms of like, I mean, I was thinking of just having it like a kind of like GitHub, where you have your own, like each user can have their own things, and that's
Fine.
that's kind of a
No,
short-term
listen,
solution to.
There is a lot that can be done for alignments of problem and solutions without taking into account ownership. And it's valuable, and yes, it's worth doing. And good if you're tackling that, but be aware that it's always what you're solving, what you're not solving. And it's
Right.
clear that a lot of alignment stuff is being solved in the B2B world, right? Companies try to know who are my suppliers, who are my competitors, who are my allies. That's also their job. And so they'll be tackling that problem on a big scale with considerations about IP, because that's their business.
Right.
Okay, so you're speaking about the mountains, then let's look at the structure. Accessibility problem. What do you call accessibility?
I actually don't even I mentioned it here, just like addressing these complex problems more accessible.
Understandability, so that's more a kind of vulgarization problem. Cool.
And this just very like high level, kind of like intuitively justifies why these are currently inefficient today, rather than kind of going into detail with examples and stuff, which is also a question of, should I add examples or not? How long should it be?
Yeah, there's a whole, are you taking info warfare into account in there?
Yeah, so that's another thing I haven't added in here. No, so let's see. I think down. So this is, yeah, without, so there, I guess like that's one of the things that there's like several problems with these inefficiencies, and in the like when I actually like get to talking about the tool and what it is providing and the features to add, I was going to have like set kind of phases, or like categories of features, like features that would help tackle, you know, the like trolls and deconstructive interactions and stuff like that. I didn't, so I could have like, so for each of those kind of phases, I could have some like explanation of, like at a very high level of like, hey, this is a problem, and then get into the phases like, well, I actually do want to tackle these problems. I just don't know how long that would get in going in through all of those, or if it'd be good enough to just kind of say like, well, these are suboptimal.
If I understand well, what you're saying is the main problem with problem alignment is decomposing the problems into known parts and making sure that those parts are understood and
Basic,
giving epistemic backing for each of the underlying presuppositions. Fair enough.
yeah, basically, and making sure that it's open, I guess, as well as this kind of third point of people being
If
able to give feedback precisely and
okay,
stuff like that.
so you're not tackling for example, the linkage between problems. If we had this, if we solved X, we could solve Y, or X
Right.
could.
Well, if so, you can model multiple problems in one topic, but it's not like I guess it's not a short-term goal to have, or not a short-term, not in the short-term plan to be able to link topics to each other or have like global representations of these things.
Okay, and but what's really, see, for me, one of the key reasons for doing this, well, that's me, of course, maybe not be your reason,
Right.
but you want to avoid duplication of effort. So if two people have similar goals, or at least problem descriptions that reuse elements, those should be put in common, right? So it becomes, I think this is a problem because this component, and this component should be reusable. And if it's the same problem, if we're both describing the same problem, we should bloody unify, even if we, and this is where it gets subtle and I don't have a clear answer. It's like, suppose you're saying, okay, I have a better solution for e-waste, for example, whatever. And then I'm working on e-waste in Montreal and you're working on e-waste wherever that is. And maybe our e-waste in both those cities follows the same basic structure or decomposition. And that means we can just be two applications of the same process and with the same problem definition. E-waste consists of those types of things. We want to re-extract whatever metal, and so these chemical processes are relevant, right? And then we share the goal, the means, everything, just not the location. Is that the same problem? Is that not the same problem? Like, is the location enough to make it a different problem? I'm not saying there's a clear answer there. I'm just saying it would be bloody nice if everybody working on e-waste in local X could say,
yeah,
what can I reuse that's being done elsewhere? And
so I actually have a category that I haven't written yet for, well, I guess that's what I was categorizing as wicked features of like a problem that is in multiple areas, where you could have like, well, generally when you're thinking about this problem anywhere, like these are the causes, these are potential causes, potential solutions, and then like you could see this problem within the context of a specific location or region or something, and be able, I'm calling that specificity levels or something, where you basically, if you like, you can choose to change stuff at the general level or at specific to a region. And if you're like, well, I want to look at this from the lens of a new region here, then your region would start with like copying basically all the stuff from the general to your specific one, and you could still add a new problem that might exist only in your region and not in the other ones. But you could score all the things differently. So you could say like, well, in Montreal, this is more of a problem, or like this piece of it is more of a problem, whereas in, that's on the list, definitely.
And then,
but that would be one topic, I guess. That would still be one.
No, but that's a question, right? The question is, when you have these common features and abstractions, what is the ownership, right? I mean, clearly I would own, okay, here's the Montreal version and here's the special weighing, as you say, or special Montreal specific issues.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, actually this part that you designed as Montreal specific also works in my city. Where are you again?
I'm in Chicago.
Chicago. Okay, cool. So that would also work in Chicago. So I'd like to either make a copy that I would own or make an abstraction that would be shared. But I think it makes sense to have shared abstractions to say, okay, it started with an owned version, but now here's a shared abstraction. It wouldn't stop either you and me or both to have, here's the specific locale specific implementation, but the problem definition is now this shared object that doesn't belong to me or you. And that's important because it's what allows other people to recognize, improve, and say, oh, what about improving it this way, that way? And then, okay, how is this improvement relevant to me or not? Then I would kind of bring the diffs, the change sets to my local copy or not. But there's this notion that there's something that is between us, that is not my version or your version or Jack's version, because then every change you'd have to propagate n squared, right? I make a change, you have to adapt it, Jack has to adapt it. Ridiculous. What we want is to have an abstraction. I make a change, I port it to the global, and then if you want it, you take it, but it's n people that decide to take it from the global, if you see what I mean.
Right.
And that means you need unowned solution elements.
Yeah, that's so this is another like very hard problem that I like currently side on the like curator
You're punting.
punting exactly. It's another hard problem.
Yes, I know. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. I know it's a hard problem.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm not working on the visible tools, but how do I solve this hard problem?
Right. But I do think it can start as individually owned before evolving into like a shared thing. And
right.
I feel like we may have talked about that already, but like that.
Yeah, no problem with that. I have no problem with individually owned stuff. It needs to exist that way. But the question is how to structure the shared ownership and how to make it what's in common, because otherwise we're just talking about our individual characteristics. We want to reuse the work, especially if we'll go through the trouble of making them understandable. We don't want everybody to repeat that work. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. True.
Did you look at the maps map? There's my document, but there's just the general maps map stuff and what different people offered for.
Not just this one that CDL contributed. You mean like
there's our critical contribution, but there were people who came up with different systems, which I think were mostly simplistic and inadequate, to be honest. But
was it here in the projects?
yeah,
I think I remember seeing. I don't remember if this is the one I looked at, but I remember. Oh wait, no, this was through a specific. Wasn't there a specific competition? I'm confused.
Yeah, it's the maps. Yeah, that's the one. Invitation, view the winners. Constellar PDF.
Yeah, I did see these.
Again, I think it was extremely simplistic. Look at Jamie's contribution. It's interesting actually. Where is it?
Which one is that?
But it was just, there was a bit of, I don't remember where it is though, to be honest.
I don't think this is all of them. Is this all of them? I remember seeing one that like emphasized location of problems to try and get people interested in solving problems near where they live.
Anyway, I had sent you a Google Doc I made about requisites for problems and solutions mapping, right?
Wait,
N-
say that again. Which
I had made a Google Doc about what I saw as data model for problem solution mapping. I remember you
oh,
saw
this thing? This thing? Maybe? No, wait. No, no.
Maps map
This
entities.
thing, this thing. No, no.
Let me, sorry.
Maps map
see.
entities?
Yes.
I've got that here.
What, did you find that useful?
I don't remember what it was. Let's see. I actually do not remember reading this. I had it open.
Okay.
I need to go through these, honestly. I just have way too much stuff I haven't resolved, but problems and solutions. Entities.
This was me having a conversation with one of the maps map judge, and what I saw as prerequisites for the base data model. I don't think it's the end all and be all. That's minimum.
The what model?
The data model for problems and solutions.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, and communities for solving them. Oh yeah. Mensurability.
Anyway,
my my model does not currently have like situations or actors or community. That definitely seems like a kind of like a different level to model, or like it's not part of like the theory of the problem itself. It's like when you get to the stage of solving it, or well, you definitely want the actors to be able to like apply their own scores and
it's not the
stuff.
theory of the problems, but it's certainly the theory of the solutions. The solutions have to say, well, we'll go from
like who's going to do what.
No. It's we'll go from from situation A action. This plan of action should lead us from the current situation to this other situation. This other situation is deemed to be preferable by certain actors, but maybe not by all actors. So some actors may have concerns about the expected outcome, or some actors may have concerns about the action leading to side effects, which are not part of the expected outcome. So agreeing on a plan of action requires not only understanding of the problem, but understanding of what are the expected outcomes, plural, of enacting a given solution.
Right.
And which will probably have differential impact for different actors, and getting all actors to sign off, or at least, and again, maybe sometimes it will mean coercion, because maybe some of the actors are actually malignant, and then we don't want them to agree to the outcome. Happens. But knowing who will be affected how. And this is where you need actors, because there's what will it lead to? What could it lead to that you didn't expect? And how will different actors react to this new state of affairs? Maybe some of them will sabotage you. You want to know that. So this is why I think modeling actors is part of analyzing not just solutions, but sorry, not just problems, but solutions.
Right. So would the actors
And yes, as you say, there's also the role of actors as implementers, which is also true and also important.
yeah, there's like stakeholders, as in like people
Yeah.
affected by problem and solution, and then there's
Yep.
people trying to solve it.
Yep. Who are also stakeholders, but yeah, the stakeholders are not just the doers.
Right, right.
And modeling problems and solution is about modeling outcomes of action plans. We're here, we want to be there. Who's we? And where else could we land up with this action versus that action? And it's a cost-benefit analysis up to a point. But the costs are not, the costs and benefits are never evenly distributed.
Right, right.
And that's part of choosing.
Yeah, it definitely seems valuable to model these. I guess this is specifically, or not exclusively, but more so relevant for like wicked-ish problems that have many people being affected by them.
Yep, correct.
Right, right.
I'm just saying problem solution modeling is not that simple.
Right, right.
There's a Bayesian tree of how likely are side effects.
Yeah, I haven't thought too much about the like wicked specific features because I haven't really, while that's a very critical piece, I haven't really like practiced or like tried to thoroughly model any of those, and I feel like a lot of this stuff would come up when trying to do that. And I'm curious what people have out there for this kind of thing. But
You may look at the Delphi method for predictions.
the Delphi method.
Yeah. It's a big field and a lot is being done.
Consensus forecast. Makes sense.
Anyway, we're at the top of the hour.
Right, right.
What I'm saying is, I think one thing your paper certainly needs is a better scoping. This is the problem I'm trying to solve. This is the part that I'm tackling. These are out of bounds. These are, I'm not tackling this, I'm not tackling this, and be very specific about, explicit about all this.
Right.
And I think you have to think about, and I also have to think about this. I'm also struggling with this user journey. Like a user comes in, what do they do? How do they interact with the system? What feedback does the system get them? What does it get them that they couldn't do just by talking to people? Seriously. Think about the value add of the system.
Yeah, I wonder how, well, I guess.
And think about trust issues.
Right, yeah.
And data ownership. All that is part of the territory.
Yeah, maybe I could have a list of like out of scope for the short term, but I know these are problems and eventually would like to get to. But like, I guess that's where being explicit about what the current use cases or like the nearby use cases are of like, well, this tool is really only usable in synchronous like meetings or
Mhm.
like being clear about that might help, I
Anyway,
guess.
I'll leave now.
All right. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback a lot. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I've been relentless a bit, but
No, it's good. It's good.
and
Cool.
that's part of this is my own agenda, but
Right. Cool. Well,
bye.
all right. See ya.
See ya.